Today we're here as part of our full movie breakdown and analysis series on the 1995 film Waiting to Exhale.
In this series, we've decided to create a separate video for each of the women's stories so that we can fully examine what happens with each character without the time constraints. This video focuses on Robin's story. Be sure to check out the description for links to videos on the other ladies' stories in Waiting to Exhale. Written by Terry McMillan and directed by Forrest Whitaker, Waiting to Exhale chronicles a year in the lives of four friends, Bernadine, Savannah, Robin, and Gloria, as they literally wait to exhale and find peace with their romantic relationships.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
I can't wait to talk about this movie. But first, we want to thank all of the supporters who've helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/AxiomAmnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
I don't believe I'm spending New Year's Eve by myself.
In the first scene, we are introduced to Robin, and it's New Year's Eve, and she's talking about spending New Year's Eve alone, and she's talking to herself a little bit, and she's telling us about Russell, her former love interest.
Finally gave up on Russell, a lying, sneaky, horse Pisces. Every woman in America wanted to be with him.
And basically breaks down how he is apparently a cheater because she found some type of underwear in his gym bag.
Oh, I knew he was mine until I found that half slip in his gym bag.
Oh, that's what that was? Because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Half slip.
A half slip, you know.
It's only at the bottom?
Undergarments. Yeah, it's the bottom part of the slip, not the top. Yeah. You know, Robin seems bubbly and happy and stuff like that. And, you know, quite normal. And it's just her and her dog on New Year's Eve.
But who is she talking to in this scene?
She's just talking to her dog and herself.
I think she might be talking to us.
Is she talking to us?
I don't know if she's talking to us. Do the other characters talk to us? I think
they have like a narrate. They
each
narrate their own stories.
Okay, so
but
she's actually speaking out loud.
Well, Bernadine was doing that too. Remember how Bernadine, when she was ripping the clothes out of his closet, and she was talking to herself and stuff.
Okay. So I think that she done that out of anger, right? So it's showing somebody's in anger and they're actually speaking out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what she's doing here. And if y'all don't know, we do have a video about Bernadine already.
Yes,
so and
it is linked in the description.
I don't know because she was in a fit when she was doing that.
So here, I think that each of the ladies, whether it's Gloria, although I don't remember Gloria. Yeah, you hear inside of Gloria's head sometimes. But in this case, Robin is actually speaking out loud. And I guess they just use that as a technique, you know, to advance the plot so that we get the information without maybe them having some interaction with another one of the girlfriends.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So maybe she's just talking to her dog, and that makes it better.
Yes.
If she is talking to her dog.
What's up, Joseph? I like them pants.
Well, thank you, girl.
We see Robin at Gloria's shop, and she's painting her nails at her shop or whatever. And Gloria's like, just get out of here and go back to your hot shot insurance company or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin is just basically like, yeah, I got it like that. So it's establishing that, she got a nice little job, you know, with no worries, really. And I'm assuming that means she makes really good money.
Because, baby doll, I don't punch in or out. I got it like that. Remember? Lunch hour is over.
But this is what she's wearing to the office, which is sort of funny to me. Like your entire midriff is out, but she's got on a blazer, right? So that somehow apologizes for essentially, you know, going to work like this. But maybe that was acceptable in the insurance office in the 90s or whatever.
I don't think so. I think that this was trying to usher in that whole 90s woman thing. And I don't think they do that now where they actually mention the decade anymore.
No.
Like no one is like, oh, this is a 20s woman or a 20s man or a 20s whatever.
Whenever
it's
I hear
weird.
like the 90s, I think of Living Single, the theme where she's like, it's the 90s kind of world. I mean, I think about that because it's this, kind of
See,
it's
that's what I'm saying.
I'm a 90s
That's
woman.
what this is like. That's what, if you weren't around in the 90s, that's what it was like. It
because
was, you had this idea of the 90s and this changing of whatever, and then you had 90s women and what a 90s woman is and was going to be.
prosperity, right? So she's spending her time in a place where she's keeping herself beautiful and pretty, and then she is the boss, even though they weren't using terms like boss chick and whatnot back in the 90s. But, she's a boss in the sense that she seems to be in charge of what's going on with her career and stuff. And, and things are going well. She's a beautiful woman. She's got it all, is what it looks like, except we already know from the last scene, she kind of has some man problems. But in this scene here, later what we find out is just Bernadine's personal information, which is not really relevant to this conversation. So we're going to skip over that part.
Is Leela Rashawn tall? Because I look at her next to that guy.
Yeah, I think she is. And I feel like she's maybe at least 5'8".
Oh, okay. I wouldn't call that tall. But
5'8", 5'9", because I think Whitney Houston is about that height. And I don't remember her being like that much, like she was towering over Whitney. They might have been around the same height. We also get some insight into her personality because clearly from the way she's dressed, she's willing to be kind of on the cutting edge. I would suggest that she's dressed a bit inappropriately for a job such as this. Because, okay, if you think about how they were dressing, let's say in Boomerang, right around the same time period, right, as this movie. Nobody had at the office their midriff out. So this is a different type of woman.
Yeah, so like even down to like the fabric that she has as her skirt and the pattern.
Yeah, and she's wearing kind of like a wraparound skirt too.
Yeah.
We'll see more about kind of how she behaves and her attitudes when Bernie, when they find out that Bernie's husband has left her and then they get on the phone, she is just reckless with her mouth and she's all like, Bernie, he can't leave you and all of that, with 2 kids and she's just really, she brings the ratchet to the crew.
Let me talk to Bernie.
It's the machine.
Don't, Bernie, how dare that son of a bitch leave you with 2 kids?
Well, you don't go there up in here.
So there we see Robin, and how she behaves on the phone and stuff. And just even before she goes to the phone to try to yell in the background to talk to Bernie, she's, using foul language in front of the, or inappropriate language in front of this younger, this young girl who is there, getting her services in the salon.
Michael and I work for the same insurance company. He's just been promoted onto my marketing team.
So we're introduced to Michael, who Robin says was recently promoted to her marketing team.
At the insurance company.
And she's like sexually harassing him, it appears.
Well, he looked like he's participating happily.
Well, when it's a woman, she participates too, but it doesn't make it any less sexual harassment.
That is true.
In the
On
workplace.
the job, I don't know if she saw that video that was talking about sexual harassment in the workplace, but this definitely is inappropriate. And, and it's just bad for your personal life, right? You're on your job, sleeping with people on your job and stuff.
Well, it's bad for the personal life and the work life, and we'll see some of that in the future. But she talked about how, he had 38 Ds or whatever.
I mean, he's not pretty, but he is available. Michael had to be about a 38D.
In movies, it's always, hey, when we want a sleazy person or someone who is undesirable, then we gonna basically try to make them ugly and or overweight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically probably a reason why he got cast for this role.
And overweight, and let's talk about it, because this is the great Wendell Pierce. I love him as an actor, and you probably are familiar with his work in The Wire and many other, things throughout the years. But the thing about it is, so for her, she's like making jokes as he's walking in. And the other thing about it is simply because he's overweight, he's also pitted as being kind of uncool,
Right.
which is funny to me because he later at other times seems perfectly fine, not that he's super cool, but like not the way they played him in this scene,
Yeah.
right?
She was like, she don't want him to touch her.
My brain was saying, put your hands anywhere else but on my body.
Why is he here?
Yeah, but you standing up there, posing in your lingerie.
Yeah.
So what do you have to gain from this?
But-
Why are you doing this?
Then go home. And don't come back, you human submarine sandwich.
Do you know why he's there?
He's there because she invited him there, clearly.
Yeah, but why?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Robin. I don't, but I think that maybe she was, I'm just going to go out on a limb and speculate. I think that she was looking for love, right? She was looking for something to be real because you remember, she's kind of on the rebound or had this issue with Russell. And so now it's like, okay, let me find, another guy. And I feel like Robin, not to slut shame, but I just think that Robin just was getting with any low-hanging fruit guy that she saw. Like there was just no discernment.
Yeah.
And clearly, because you're not even kicking it with a guy you
want. And it's a subordinate at work who you don't want. Like it's not even like her boss who she's getting with.
But maybe the opposite of that is that maybe she's purposely getting with a guy that she doesn't have this physical chemistry with, right? Like with Russell, because she's thinking that could possibly work out better.
Right, that maybe when she's physically attracted, then it's clouding her judgment of who the guy is, too.
And as you can see, as time goes on, like she's not exactly, the brightest bulb. So they're in this bedroom scene and they're about to get it on.
Robin, love you, baby.
They continue to try to make Michael lame in every possible way. She's like maybe a slightly larger than average woman, but certainly not a big woman. And he can't even lift her up as he's trying to lift her up and get her on the bed, and he winds up dropping her. I think that they're giving you this kind of comic relief in the moment, but comic relief from what? Because why, why is this the dynamic?
But it's supposed to be this idea that he is totally undesirable. It's nothing redeeming about him, nothing that you should look at him and be like, okay, maybe this is a likely prospect, right, for a partner.
But you're still literally about to let this man put his pokey stick inside of you.
Well,
with all of these things that you feel are kind of going against him, and that, even objectively, the way it's being portrayed. And I mean, consider how he was laughing and stuff, and he was like, he just sounded ridiculous. They really played him wrong in the scene. They did Michael wrong. Then we find out perhaps another motivation for why she's willing to give him a chance, because at dinner, she found out he does all of these things, scuba diving and deep sea fishing, and has his own boat and all of this stuff, right? So the guy has some money.
Drag races, scuba dives, deep sea fishes, and keeps his own boat in the White Mountains.
Was it a work date? Because
No.
you still have to go on the date. You have to
Well,
go.
no, so she may have just said, hey, I'm going to give this guy a chance. But, how he wound up in the room could be because, I have him stick around because she's going to, sleep with him.
All right.
Kind of, he'll be in her wheelhouse.
So who asked who? I guess he asked her. He went up to his boss or maybe a superior and was like, hey, you want to go on a date? And then he was like, yeah. Let me
But
tell
is
you
she
about
his boss? Or is she
I know
just
that's-
on... Or did
a
he get moved
superior,
to
I
her
recall,
team?
right?
But they said
somebody
her team.
is ahead of somebody at top of the team. I think it was her. We'll see later on. So
Yeah, we'll
at this
verify
point,
that.
at this point, we don't know. We just know that he was promoted to her team, which would hint that she was already higher in the
Higher than
company
him.
than him.
I told him I grew up an Army brat, that I went to ASU and I majored in anthropology.
Robin says she majored in anthropology, went to ASU, and grew up an Army brat. She said that's what I told him.
And I think it probably is true. It would make sense.
I don't know, but the fact that she said I told him, it makes me question it.
I think that she is, a person who had these career aspirations and clearly just maybe didn't have it together necessarily personally. But,
Yeah.
But I really, now that I think about it even more, I think it's just like, okay, so he has money. He's, on her level in that respect. And so she's just like, all right, maybe this thing could work out.
Yeah.
He could take her to nice dinners and do fancy things with her. So, it may be worth it to her.
Here you go.
So the next thing we see is
1990s.
1990s. He is about to get it on, but she's like, and she gives him a condom. And for those of you who might be too young to actually realize, in the 90s, because of HIV/AIDS, you had this push and this idea of safe sex, which clearly today doesn't really exist the same way because, HIV and AIDS, the implications today are very different. They
Yeah.
have lots of medications and stuff like that. Back then, it really sort of was a death sentence.
And if you're making a movie about it in the 90s about relationships and sex, and you don't even mention anything about it, you might catch some flack for it.
Mm-hmm. So, she was making sure she practiced safe sex, which, even in spite of her kind of being very ditzy, she was responsible with this guy at least, right? You need some help?
No. There. There.
Okay. So if you guys didn't catch what happened, when he first gets the condom and he has the wrapper, he throws the wrapper away, right? So then you have this like long moments where you're watching him seemingly try to get this thing on. And then she's like, you need help? He's like, nah. And then we see he throws the condom over his shoulder. And
Yeah.
so he's going in raw.
Yep. And she's like, dang, I didn't even get to see what he was working with after asking him if he needed help and him saying no. So I don't know. It's about to, you about to see what he's working with either way. So
I didn't even get a chance to see what he had to offer.
I'm not a woman. I don't know if you want to see what or why you would want to see.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. What's my name?
Michael!
Yeah.
So he got on top of her and did his business.
Basically, straight out of
And-
Color Purple.
She was very encouraging.
She was. Well, I think when she realized it wasn't gonna be all that, she just said, "Okay, well, I'm a round it out and make it nice for him." Then they end, and she's like, "Ooh!" And you know what? When she does that, I don't know why it reminds me of when they say "soul" in Soul Train.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of that every time I hear that scene. So, he's on top of her, sweating and everything. And then when he's done, he just like literally flops all of his weight down on her. Clearly, he ain't putting it down like Russell. Then she kind of becomes angry. At first, she was lighthearted, even though, he didn't do it right or whatever. But when he, is all like, woo, like he put it down, then she's annoyed.
Does he think he just did something here?
I knew you were going to be somebody special.
And she's sitting there with her face all crumpled up and stuff like that. And she's like, does he think he, really did something there? I guess that is the danger, right? That's the danger of encouraging somebody or faking it. And he's thinking he's doing something and she had just been playing along. And then now he thought he did a good job. And she's sitting there looking crazy.
Michael asks, how do you feel? And she's like, about what? About this,
How do you feel?
About what?
Me. This.
She isn't communicating at all. And I think this probably happens a lot where women be like, oh, he just won't leave me alone and won't stop calling me and stuff because it hasn't been communicated that I don't want to deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But she's encouraged him, and then he didn't just say, I don't want to be with you, and I didn't like this, or, she didn't do any of that.
That's a really good point because I feel like she has strung him along just for her own purposes, right? And then at various moments, she's going to be short on patience because she doesn't really want him to be there to begin with,
Tell me what you want. What you need, because whatever it is, I'm going to see that you have it. I mean, what do you want from a man?
Everything. I want to be happy.
You don't want much?
That might be my favorite line in the whole movie, maybe.
You don't want much?
You don't want much. And how he delivered it.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened there was that he said, Michael was just like, hey, anything you want, I can provide, basically. But I wonder, how did he get his money? How does he have more money than her? If they, or let's say they're on the same level at work or close, is he gonna just spend all his money that he makes and saying he don't have anything outside of that, right? He gonna spend all he has to make sure that she has everything that she want? Or could it be that because he's a male, he could be beneath her or on her level and making more money than her too?
So many things to unpack. Let's see. Where do I even start? okay, getting back to the first thing you said, he said, whatever you want, girl, you know I will provide, like the song, right?
Yeah.
Anything you want is what I'm going to make happen. And this clearly, as we're going to see with Russell later, is in stark contrast to the men she's been dealing with. So she doesn't even understand and see a, quote, real man. She
Right.
can't even recognize that when she sees it, right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't realize that she really doesn't even want that much. She's like, well, what do you want? And then she goes on.
I want to have a house in Scottsdale.
I own a house in Scottsdale. What else?
She wants a comfortable life. She wants a comfortable life and a family and to be a wife, to be married, right? This is what she wants.
I want to get married. And I want to have kids, too. I want to go away for long weekends.
No one ever asked her, what do you want from a man? Or she never even asked herself, right? And then she was just like, everything. Because I think she was trying, she don't like him really. So she wanted to be unreasonable. She wanted to mention deal breakers. And that's what she thought she was doing. A house in Scottsdale, 2 kids, you know? And he's like,
Exactly.
yeah, you don't want much. And then maybe it brought her down some to be like, wait a minute. I'm not even asking for much and I'm not able to get it, right? Or that these aren't things that 90s men or 80s to 90s men aren't providing.
And the wrong kind of men, right?
Yeah.
See, because that's the thing. To a man like him, he's going to be expecting to marry the woman, right? He's going to be expecting to provide and have children.
Right.
Like, this is what you
A
mean.
house.
You know, when you
What? A
talk to
house
a
and some
real man,
kids.
a house, I already got a house. Now, you pointed to the question of how did he make his money? How does he have more money than her? I think that, you know, he's a professional guy who probably excelled at, you know, wherever he was in, you know, on the career ladder. He is a man, so maybe he got a little extra, you know, his, you know, her only 70 cents on his dollar or whatever it was in the 90s. And so but I also think that a man like this is, even from a young age, counting his money so that he's set up so that he
Right.
can provide, right? So she's over here renting an apartment, but he's buying a house, you see.
Yeah.
You know, all of these different things, because her mindset and his are completely different.
Yeah, but it brings up the questions that are asked over and over, and much of the contention in 2023, in the 20s, right?
Mhm.
Of he's supposed to be wanting to provide, but he may not even have or make what she does. Right? But on the outside, it may appear that way because he bought a boat and he's already ahead
putting
because he
his
owns
money
the home.
to good use.
Yeah,
I would at
but-
least say that.
Right, but the idea of a man providing for a woman when they're basically at the same level financially is what I'm saying, is that tilts the scales one way or the other, right? Because he's supposed to be a man and do it, but you're basically on the same level financially.
Well, and like, let's be clear. What I typically would see in, you know, in a situation where both people are, you know, making pretty good money and whatnot, would be that their money kind of goes into, he's able to provide. He's coming into the situation with a house, with assets, certainly more than what she has. And then when they get together, you know, their monies collectively go into
Yeah.
coffers. Maybe they get a bigger house, you know, maybe the kids too, you know, so there's a division of things perhaps, but it's not like she's just pocketing all of her money and spends nothing, you know, and doesn't have to spend her money on anything.
We know it's ideal, but I know what much of the arguments nowadays are about. That a man should be providing. Like, the whole setup here is she wants a man who provides, right? And he is willing to do it even though she is very much capable, right? But it's still the old archaic way of, I'm the man, so I provide all the money and everything, right?
I
But
agree.
it's not set up that way because this is a 90s woman who is making the same or more than this man.
And what makes her, okay, what would make her in this situation, being with him, have these expectations upon him that she doesn't have on Russell? Now,
Right.
to me, this might be, you know, insensitive, however you want to put it, but like, this is the reality of it. This woman may have been a woman that without his money and possessions might have been difficult for him to land, right? And, you know, he's not putting it down in the bed like Russell. He's not Russell, okay? And we all know, I mean, studies have shown it, people who are physically attractive have certain advantages. by most standards, she would be more physically attractive than him, right?
Yeah.
So he knows he's gonna have to, do something to level the playing field, and that's his wallet in this case.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she don't need that. So she's up there. We know that she's in this bougie company or whatever.
Yeah.
They're probably the only two black people up
Yeah.
there at that level, right? So this guy who came along who worked with her is like the Michelle and Barack Obamas at this company.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guys probably ain't making it. So they have other things that she gets from them because she can't provide for herself.
Well, she can provide a certain life for herself, but it
Yeah.
ain't the life that she's talking about that she wants,
Yeah,
right?
but that's not the point. It's that it's another black person who is kind of embodies that idea of a man making this sort of money. Because otherwise, she's just a woman who's making more money than the black men of the 1990s, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's
I
what I'm
see.
saying. So it's two black people probably, and we'll see. But he was just promoted to her team.
Mm-hmm. Then we see kind of these moments of tenderness where she decides that she's going to ask him, what does he want?
What do you want?
Robin, I think I found it.
You don't even know me.
And he's like, I think I found it. So clearly he wants her. He is willing to do what it takes to land her, right? And he, is like, I'll pay for everything, but I'll provide everything you want. He realizes that in this case, his money is his asset.
I could give you everything you want, everything you need if you let me.
And he can't give her what she wants, right? And she knows that. So that's why their money matters, right? Because what she gets from those other guys is what she wants, right? And that's why she says, you can start by kissing me. And then she starts to communicate about what she wants, because maybe he can be someone who have that stability and provide the romance and whatever sexual desires that she has.
No. Slowly.
Yeah, so she's willing to work with him, right? See, the thing about the other guys who are, the Long Dong Silvers is they came to her with those abilities, right?
Right.
But she's like, maybe I could work with him and this could maybe work.
But they're not making the money though.
Well, see,
right?
yeah, right.
So they have that thing, and you can't coach the man to being on her level in career wise, but she can probably teach him to be better in bed or whatever she's lacking at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at him, I didn't care anymore that he wasn't Mr. Universe.
Go ahead and try again with him doing things slow and under her tutelage. She is able to have the big O. And she said he felt like the real thing.
And when I closed my eyes, Michael felt just like the real thing.
And I felt like even in the end, that was just sort of like a slight, because if you got that out of it, it was the real thing.
That's her shallow coming out.
It was actually the real thing.
It's only the real thing when she's satisfied sexually.
What a dummy. Now we see what the dynamic is at work.
Bruh. Sexual harassment.
Yes. And so she's giving her presentation.
What does the engineering report show?
It shows an active safety environment.
I found a discrepancy in the report.
So he clearly embarrasses and undermines her in front of everyone else.
On purpose.
And so why does he do this? Why?
Because they're the two black ones and one of them got to climb.
I never thought of it that way. Okay, so I was always a little confused by this. I wondered if maybe, she had played him to the left because maybe, because there's a lot we don't see on screen, right? So maybe Russell came around again for a second and, she made herself unavailable. Like something may have gone on and he was salty about that, right? So I felt like maybe that's what it was.
That's what it seems like.
But I don't know.
But from what's in the movie, that's all I can conclude.
Is that
because he say what's in the what's in the report. You found a discrepancy. You didn't say nothing. You waited till the meeting and everything.
And let her get in front of these people.
And then say, what's in there? And let her say whatever. And be like, well, you wrong because what I saw was.
So here's another thing. I mean, and this is pure speculation on my part, but is this his attempt to exert his manhood over her? Because they got this a whole other relationship that the other people in the room don't know about, right? So is this him being dominant now right? Because he's like, I can correct you. I can tell you what's right. I'm running this. Is that what that could be also?
I don't know. But
even if they were perfectly fine
yeah, I don't know.
in their relationship?
It seems like they may possibly be on the same level, this move, right? Because it looks like jockeying for a position. But it don't seem like he done anything wrong because Robin says, you want to do your job?
So you want to do your job? Well, you will never get another whiff of this.
Yes.
So basically saying this is what he is supposed to be doing. Not that it's something wrong with what he done.
And his punishment, of course, is that he will not get any more.
Yeah, and if you're above him, then that's sexual harassment.
I mean, the whole thing is inappropriate because, like, come on,
Even
y'all
if
should have
it's
been
your
doing this on your
coworker.
job. And this is where I feel he too is wrong. You know, he's not innocent. He has worked his way up through the, you know, the company or just came to the whatever, however he got here.
Well,
okay?
maybe that's what he's trying, right? To manipulate her in that way.
Oh, okay. We got to take this to the comments, y'all. Do you think that Michael was just basically trying to manipulate her and tank her so he could just like climb over her on his way to the top up the ladder?
He's like, I give you anything you want. Don't worry about doing nothing at work. You know what I'm saying?
6 months you'll be sitting home with my baby,
Well,
and I'll
not
be in your
even.
spot.
You just gonna start lacking at work because you think you're doing something with him. He'll drop you once he get that promotion.
Oh, don't say that. I thought Michael
People
was like a
cutthroat.
sweet guy and was not like a super cutthroat. But you know what? You got to have a little bit of that shark in you, though, I think, to make it as the black
Yeah.
man. And
He's wearing
in
a
these
suit
rooms.
at work, sitting at this table. So you got to. That's just the type of job. If you have to dress like this, then you got to be cutthroat at some
Ooh.
level.
I mean, I agree. I agree with that. If you got to wear uncomfortable clothes to work like this, then you already know what type of environment you're in. I know when I was in corporate, it was like, yeah, just never let your guard down and trust and believe. I never did, ever. That's the word to the wise to you young folks climbing the ladder. All right, so in the next scene, we see all the ladies, and they are at a night at the club. And so there's this part where Bernadine goes up, and she's dancing with this ex-football player, Herbert Webster, I think his name is. And when Robin sees him, Robin is like, ooh, he fine. And if she don't want him, I slam dunk him. And you know.
And fine as hell. And if she don't want him, I'll slam dunk him tonight.
So then Gloria is like, girl, he
But-
is very married.
He's also very married.
That's
And Robin is like, and?
that's a totally wrong sports reference.
But she's wrong on so many levels. She's just wrong. You know, she's slam dunking a football player and, you know, and just not caring that she's about to, you know, hook up with him or would be willing to hook up with a married man who clearly was like flirting and into her friend. Like, you just have no kind of discrimination at all. But again, this is more insight into her as, you know, into her character. And part of, I think, her character is why she's not getting what she's wanting,
Yeah, well.
how she's behaving. Here's the scene where Bernadine is like, you know, if his wife is at home, then he better watch out for me.
If his wife's at home, he better watch out for me.
Ooh, give me some. First one high-fiving her is Robin. Ooh, girl, you know, I heard that, kind of agreeing with this sentiment of, you know, married men are not off limits for us. And what's funny about Savannah's character, Whitney Houston is playing her, is that she's like, ooh, y'all too much for me, knowing that you are a whole side chick at the moment.
Bruh.
And I know some of y'all got real upset about, you know, talking about Bernadine being a side chick. But if we not lying, Bernadine was a side chick. The two men she rebounded with were both married. Okay.
And it's explained fully in the video.
So be sure to watch that video. But anyway, so back to Robin. So, you know, so this is her attitude. And it all makes sense now. It all makes sense. So guess who shows up to the club with another woman? Well, it's Michael.
Oh, I don't even believe this shit.
You know, the other woman is pretty and everything, and she's looking all stank-faced, and we find out that Robin must have been his boss because she fired him.
It's only been a week since I fired him, and he was talking marriage.
I
A
don't
week
know
ago.
if that's what she meant.
Oh, okay.
She said I fired him and something about married, right?
And he was talking marriage.
And he
Okay,
was
so
talk-
maybe she means
Right. But that's what I think of when I say
she
fired.
quit him.
So he could have been fired. But also, she looks at her relationship at home as if she's like a boss at work.
Mm. Well, that's true. Go to the comments. So when she says she fired him, you think that means she quit him in the relationship, or that she legitimately fired him on the job or at the job, which in case would mean that she really was his boss.
Did she break up with him before the scene of them basically fighting at work? Because does it explain why he would act the way he did at work?
Yeah, if they broke up, then it's cutthroat. Because he was trying to really have her, and then she rejected him after all that. And so he would just be like, all right, whatever, I'm on to the next. He's coming out, stepping out in the world with another woman, because a man like that is never going to have a shortage of people who were willing to keep him company. He's got a lot going for him financially, and he seems like a genuinely nice guy, right? So yeah. So she sees him out there, but she's jealous though. And that's what's funny, is that you quit him or whatever it was. You decided to get rid of him, whether that was on the job and personally or just
both.
Personally. Right.
If it's on the job, then it's both.
Yeah. Whether it was both or just personally. Either way, you're getting rid of this guy. And like Gloria reminds her, you just remembered, don't embarrass us up in here.
Well, don't forget you dropped him, and please don't embarrass yourself, and please don't embarrass us.
And you just remember that you quit him. That's what Gloria is like. And this gives even more insight into Robin's character, because Gloria knows that Robin will act up. Robin is the one who will bring the ratchet to the club. And she's like, please do not embarrass us up in here. So I do think that that's, kind of funny. But yeah, Robin is big mad about that.
She saw him. Michael who?
What song is that?
How could you call her baby?
It sounds like Whip Appeal.
Really? Well, I mean, Babyface did it. But that was a nice song from there. And I forgot is it Shauna maybe is her? I'm trying to remember. Let me look it up now. Yes. How Could You Call Her Baby Shauna, from the soundtrack, which in this video, we haven't talked about how good that soundtrack is, but that soundtrack is everything.
Yeah. We had Whoop Appeal Part 2.
I like that song. Okay. So cut to the next scene. She's like, I've only known Troy for 3 days, but I feel close to him already.
I've only known Troy for 3 days, but already I feel close to him.
He smokes, but I could live with one bad
Man,
habit.
you just sitting with your friends smoking. Come on.
I wish he didn't smoke, but I can live with one bad habit.
But not even just about the smoking. It's funny to me that she's like, I've known him 3 days and I feel close to him. Girl, Robin is desperate. That's really what it is. That's why she's flittering around. To be such a beautiful woman physically, she's clearly desperate. Sadly desperate.
So McKelty Williamson plays Troy, and they go to this party, and he comes in and he does this dance. I don't know what this dance is. But it reminds me of somebody I know, because they would kind of do that dance, jokingly. And I don't think they got it from the movie, because I think they were doing it before the movie came out. But yeah, it's very funny. So every time I see that, it just makes me laugh.
But he's so extra. And then, he comes into this party and we just, first of all, we had to talk about Robin's dress. The dress was everything for the 90s. Now, maybe it looks way out of style now, but I remember seeing this dress and I was like, ooh, I love that dress. And, so yeah, I did love that dress back then.
If you look at how everyone's dressed at the party, she got on her white dress. Everybody got these grays and light tan browns.
There's a white dress, yeah.
Yeah. And this guy comes on like a cowboy in dark clothes.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite Caucasian, Wild Bill.
She's walking through the party after Troy has left her to go off with his friend who came and got him. And she finally finds Troy in the back, and he's making some type of under the table deal, literally under the table. It's clear what type of environment this is. This is not her scene. And, she has this thought if I'm going to be dealing with this, I might as well be with Russell.
Might as well be with Russell if I'm going to deal with this shit.
She still is struggling to kind of find her place.
Troy, I'm ready to go.
Come on, woman.
No, I'm ready to go now.
At the end of it, she's like, I'm ready to go. She wants to leave this party. She is not having any kind of patience for what he's doing. She hasn't quite completely figured him out, but this is just clearly not her scene. So in the next scene, we see Robin get home with Troy.
Hey, see? Told you about all that.
And she's got an attitude because she didn't like what she said. She's realizing that Troy is basically a smooth talking druggie. And she doesn't want to deal with it. And so Troy comes in and he's like,
Am I gonna have to tame you?
I know.
Girl, am I gonna have to whip it out and tame you? Am I gonna have to tame you?
That was like one of his best lines that he had to say. And he comes in and he's just like, being all sexual with her and stuff. But he knows exactly how to manipulate her. And so she's all hard and cold as ice. And then he comes up behind her and he's trying to be nice. He said, well, this comes at a bad time, because she's like, look, maybe we need some distance.
I think we should cool out for a while.
Well, this comes at sort of a bad time.
And he's like, yeah, my mama and them want to meet you. I want you to come, and my mama and family.
My mother wanted me to invite you over for a barbecue.
This is a significant thing, right? When you're meeting somebody's family. So he's like, I know if I throw that out, that'll be a nice little hook for her,
Why do you want me to meet your mother? I have only known you for 3 days.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, you think I'm making this up because you mad? Then all of a sudden she's like, well, I'm just going to stick around, after she basically was like, I'm done with you. So all he got to do is say, hey, you, my mama want to meet you. And she say, no man ever asked me to meet his mother before.
No man ever asked me to meet his mother before.
Maybe he's not that much into that stuff.
Maybe he's not into this stuff all that much.
So now she's rationalizing away the stuff his character that she's now been exposed to.
Well, and why?
Because he said, because he seemed to kind of be like a family person, or no man ever wanted me to meet his mama.
Because she's got a low self-concept issue. And a lot of people struggle with this. And I think we've seen and known people who it doesn't even matter what they look like on the outside. If they feel a certain way about themselves in a certain category of their life, then they're behaving the way that they feel about themselves, right? So she's very confident in her career. That's not a problem. But when it comes to these relationships and her worth with men, to men, and what she should be demanding of these people who she's, with whom she's keeping time, there's a problem there. And she's like, no man ever asked me that. So like, she has never felt worthy, or hasn't interpreted her worthiness through how these men are treating her, by them even feeling like she was worthy of meeting their family. Like you're this age, or whatever age that is, mid-20s, I'm thinking. And you've never met a guy's family, but you done been with all these guys just in the, it's been a handful of guys in the movie already. Not to mention, what came before that, right? This is the crux of her problem, is that she doesn't know how to demand the right things for herself, and of course, I mean, in your 20s, you're learning, you're young, but this is it. If you're in your 20s now, make sure you're demanding the right things for yourself, but she doesn't know how. So any little crumb somebody throws at her, she's lapping it up. She's like, okay. Because now he's saying I'm good enough. He's saying I'm good enough, right? And it's kind of sad.
Girl, Russell's been paging me all day, but I'm through with him. I'm seeing Troy now.
Savannah is talking to Robin on the phone, and they're talking about Troy and his drug problem, right?
Yeah, but you know what he does, Robin.
He says he only does it sometimes.
And Whitney Houston is Savannah, who says, what do you expect him to say? I'm a crackhead.
Girl, what do you expect him to say? I'm a crackhead?
Now, the history that we know about Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown and all that.
Bruh, don't do my girl.
I'm not, but that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this in today's eyes.
Well, Diane Sawyer.
Yeah, Diane Sawyer. What do you expect Whitney Houston to say? I'm a crackhead? Like, all of this stuff, but it's very crazy coming from this character.
And then we have to just get the whole crack is whack thing. So to get back to Robin, the issue here is that she's trying to justify her continuing to see Troy, even though she knows clearly he has a drug problem. And it's not like, oh, I, drink a little too much, or I smoke, like he's on cocaine or something like that. So like it's more significant than that. Red flags early, like you probably known this dude a week,
Yeah.
Red flags. And it's just like, don't go forward with it. And her friend is trying to tell her like, girl, look, you know, and then Robin is like, well, you know, Russell, her old guy, who we still don't even know who Russell is. We've just heard things about Russell, right? But we know he's a cheater and she has this history with him. And Russell keeps calling and trying to, you know, engage her. And she's like, but I'm with Troy now. But you ain't even really with Troy because Troy is with his drugs.
I don't know if it's to that level. So what I see is it's blown up. It's you seen him at a party, probably just having party fun, right? And now it's, what are you expecting to say? I'm a crackhead, right? But I don't think it's been shown that he has a drug problem.
Okay, so let me just go out on a limb here and let me just say this. If you were a person who pretty much operates in completely drug-free environments, or you don't even do like the smallest amount of, you know, you're not even smoking weed or anything like that. And when you encounter something that is a hard drug, like, I don't know if somebody was with heroin or cocaine or something, then that there's no sliding scale of I do a little coke.
But it is a sliding scale.
But what I'm telling you is to a person who has that life experience and that is their culture.
I know.
You're a crackhead.
I didn't get that, but
I'm sorry.
I didn't get to that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is it's not that he is this strung out person on drugs. She seen him get some drugs, right? I don't even know if he had time to do it at the party. And then now you have this whole thing of possibly having a drug problem when what you don't like is that he's involved in these sort of drugs.
What is she supposed to think? So you're feeling like she jumped to a conclusion.
You jumped to a conclusion, but what is wrong with saying I don't want to deal with people who do these activities?
Okay,
right?
so
Instead
that's your
of
point
blowing
of
it up.
Yeah,
instead of blowing it up like, okay, people who do these things are then, because to me, if you say this person is strung out on drugs, then I'm looking at them differently, like they have an actual problem.
I see.
And need some sort of different compassion than some recreational user who is basically just doing this stuff to have a good time.
That's a good point.
Whose lifestyle I'm not into.
If you're functioning and you're doing that, because he clearly is like functioning, so he hasn't hit like a rock bottom type of scenario, you know, where he's all strung out, even with, because he's able to kind of get along enough. But as we move on, we might feel a little differently about that. But I don't know. The red flags are there, and yeah, who in their right mind wants to be bothered?
And then the thing of powder versus crack. When you had the powder, we seen how crack really tore up things and how the addiction was different, right? And then that basically Whitney Houston in real life pointing out the differences in crack versus cocaine and that mattering.
Yeah, because she did say, you know, I'm too rich to do crack.
Yeah, because
I would never do crack.
The powder was just like this thing that rich people done, and they go to their parties kind of like this, do it, and whatever, I don't know, Studio 52 or whatever.
54.
Studio 54 and all that, and just living their good old lives, right? Which is a different lifestyle than someone who would be an actual crackhead. And basically, I just find it ironic that this scene is like this, and this is in this movie in 1995.
It's not lost on me, the whole irony of the Whitney Houston part of it. And those of you who've been watching long enough, you know that Whitney Houston is my absolute favorite singer of all time. And, you know, I have a real hard time, even though I keep it real about Whitney, you know, I cannot have her be besmirched, but this is the truth. So we must tell the truth. But, you know, back to this idea of crack versus, you know, but to me, I'm just like, aside from the compassion that is needed for people who have, you know, problems with drug addiction, it's like, if this is your involvement, like, I don't care if you sell cocaine or if you sell crack.
Yeah.
It don't matter to me. It's all in the same bucket, and I ain't trying to be bothered.
Right.
Like, to me, that's the deal.
Okay, if I'm saying, if you know somebody, running out on somebody who is doing something recreationally is different than running out on somebody who has a drug problem. Then I'm looking at the person who left differently in those situations.
So here's my question. You ain't known this man a week.
Yeah,
So are
exactly.
you even
And
running out on him? What if he
no,
was like
but
a straight crackhead? What if she walked in and he was
okay.
like doing actual
No,
crack?
I don't think that matters because she is going forward with it. So now you done accepted whatever it is. You may not know, but you're assuming that he's already strung out, but you're still going to go and meet his family and stuff and continue on with the
Because
relationship.
Robin is a fool.
Yeah.
That's why.
So if it's somebody the person doesn't know, then I'm not looking at them as the same as someone who was with someone and then they later got involved in those drugs.
Well, and then, okay, let's just talk about the repercussions. I know that we are like veering way off the beaten path here, but I'm just thinking, all right, if I'm Savannah, Robin is my, friend or whatever in my friend group. And then I know that she's dating this guy who, as we hear later, little things that he did, stuff coming up missing and whatever, and I know this behavior is going on. Like, I'm going to have to distance myself a little bit from you, Robin, because I can't have you bringing somebody into my fold with these type of risky behaviors.
Yeah, but
I'm just keeping that
see,
real.
we're not there yet. But what I think was good about this movie is that they didn't do it like all the other movies, where like Jungle Fever and Sugar Hill, I think you brought up last time, right?
Yeah.
Where they're just so overt about it, right? This is like a guy at a party who's had something passed to him. The other ones, people are just completely strung out, and you can just make that any sort of judgment right in that moment because they're so far gone. This is like a little subtle. Oh, somebody's on some drug.
Yeah.
Right. It's
yeah.
not to the point where now they're outside begging and leaving their kid on side the fire and stuff. Outside the crack house.
Well, it points to the functioning addict, right? So somebody who, or how they used to call them like weekend alcoholics and stuff like that. So you have people who are able to kind of function mostly normally, but then they have this other element in their life. And all I'm saying, and I'm certainly not justifying my perspective on some of this, but I would just say this. We are all products of the time in which we grew up. And, my programming as a child was say no to drugs and that whole thing. And so, think about and I don't want to use the word brainwashing, but that's essentially kind of what it was. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was like brainwashing, all the movies you see of, this is the egg cracked. It's like, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs and the egg is frying in a pan.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
And I will admit those things did work on me. So when I became a young adult and later an adult, that just wasn't something that I got into. Hey, whatever people want to do in their life, that's their business. I'm not trying to tell them what to do. But at the end of the day, for me, my line is what my line is. And I look at that like, nope.
Right. So what they did good with this story is the story is not about any of that, right? It's just about basically what these four characters and what's best for them. So it don't matter if he all the way strung out and you should or shouldn't have compassion for him, or whether or not you're sexually harassing Mike or not. It's just about you getting what you want in the end and being able to exhale or whatever.
Well, let's go back to, what does Robin want? Robin wants a man to be good to her, that she has this, good balance with sexually and all that business, right? And she also wants him to, I think she wants him to be a man's man, right? Where he's a little bit traditional, but allowing her at the same time to be this 90s woman who is very, on the cusp of everything. I think that, to me, that's what it seems like she has expressed that she wanted. And this dude ain't it. He ain't gonna be able to do that, especially if doing some of the stuff we are later to see that he does. And Savannah really is a good friend. Savannah's like, girl, what you did in 3 days, besides screw the man that is making you so great that you need to come home and meet his mama.
Now he wants to take you home to meet his mama. A barbecue? Please, girl.
Like, give me a break. So clearly in her mind, the whole idea of meeting his mother is a lie. That probably ain't even probably no barbecue going on, right? But in addition to that, we find out that, Robin, what'd she say, her wallet is missing?
Yeah.
Now I can't seem to find my wallet anywhere.
Oh, that really surprises me, Robin.
Ciao. You knew this man 3 days and your wallet is missing. It's over.
What? He probably didn't even take the wallet.
Okay. It's over, sir. Do you have my wallet?
But she should not even have gotten to the point where she is entertaining going to meet his mama. If this dude is possibly doing drugs, then, and you're not into that, then that's it.
Well, here's something.
She was like, "Oh, smoking is a red flag," but then not just smoking, he's snorting now.
She keep moving the bar, you know, and then it makes me think, the people who feel like this, you're giving chance after chance after chance after red flag for these guys, right? Who you clearly recognize it ain't it. You knew day one, you knew day three that this guy had red flags, right? But then these will be the same people who are like, cut off your mama and them if they try to ask you for money. You know, thinking about the video that we did
Terry
right on Soul Food.
off.
Terry's whole family was trash because they wanted her to help them. You know, it'll be those same people, but you giving chance after chance after chance to these randoms because you don't have good self-esteem.
But look, Michael got dumped real fast.
Michael got dumped with the quickness, you know, so that's all I'm saying. So then while she's on the phone with Savannah, guess who's calling? Hey, baby.
I've been missing you, baby.
Since when?
Since I've been gone.
Come on. You know, you want some company. Come on. She was said yes so fast.
Want some company?
Yes.
I'll see you in 15.
Robin is so desperate. She was like, yes, yes. You were just talking about how you wasn't with him and you were with Troy. And it's not even 5 minutes later, he asked, can he swing by? And here you go.
I gotta go. Something I gotta do. Enjoy the low life while you can, girlfriend.
So we finally get to find out who Russell is when he shows up at the house. And, you know, I love how they film this where we still don't know who he is at first because they film him from the back. And so we only see his back standing there shirtless and her, you know, standing in her negligee or whatever. And then it is revealed that Russell is none other than Leon. And he's smooth talking her already. And she's like, oh, you know, forget Troy. Like, because it's whoever is there right now. She has like a very short attention span. Whoever is in the room who seems like they're paying attention, that's who Robin wants.
Yeah.
And yeah, she says, he's the only man I ever loved.
Russell's the only man I really loved.
And then the next line she says is, look at him, right?
Look at him.
Are you acting like you don't want to come over here?
So to her, love is about how he looks and their sexual attraction, right? And clearly, by the way, she turned down Michael and, you know, the other criteria that we've seen that she has missed. This is the only component of love for her at this point.
Last time we were together, he wanted to spend the whole night.
Robin says that last time Russell, you know, would have stayed overnight, you know, because he usually leave, but he couldn't stay last time because he had to take his mama to church early.
It's the way
bruh, come on.
The way she was like, he wanted to spend the whole night.
Except he had to take his mama to church early the next morning.
And he ain't have to take nobody to church.
Ladies, red flag number one. If he couldn't spend the whole night, that's just a red flag.
People change.
So then the four ladies are coming out of church.
Yep. So after that night of sin.
Did Russell drop her?
Russell ain't drive her to church. After that night of sin, she made sure she got up early and went on to church. Robin did. Before we get this scene going, I have to just set the scene. I told you in the last video that we did about Bernadine that this was one of the most iconic scenes and genius in the area of the music that was used. Babyface, right? He did the score for the movie as well as the soundtrack. And so this scene is a perfect scene, and we'll walk through exactly why.
You ready, baby?
I'm not going.
Troy shows up clearly late, and he's talking to Robin while she's sitting out on her balcony. And he's showing up for this supposed barbecue or whatever with his family that she's supposed to meet. He's wearing like a no shirt and this leather vest in the hot sun. And in the background is playing this da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. And what that is the theme to Romeo and Juliet. And so you got to just have some respect for the fact that Babyface figured out how to put the theme to Romeo and Juliet. There is this movie that I was referencing, and it came out in 1968. It's Romeo and Juliet.
But thou love me. Let them find me here.
And so this theme song that you hear playing in the background during this balcony scene is the theme from Romeo and Juliet. And so if we want to, so this is a kind of a clue in adding to the irony of this scene where in the movie Romeo and Juliet and in the book, of course, or the play, what's going on is that Romeo and Juliet are basically declaring their love for one another and making plans for the next day. So they're coming together in the balcony scene of Romeo and Juliet. And clearly in the Waiting to Exhale balcony scene, they are not coming together. They are breaking up. There are problems. Basically, Troy shows up 2 hours late. And she's like, I'm not going. And she's not trying to hear it. So in his discussions, he winds up confessing, you know, like, what is he supposed to tell his mother and the rest of them and his son, his 13-year-old son, who she had no idea even existed, right?
Your son? How old is his son?
He's almost 13.
So it's just coming out more and more. He clearly is some type of inebriate, you know, under some influence. He seems drunk or high or whatever the heck. And, you know, and so he even tries to bang on the door. He's completely making a scene in her apartment complex. And, you know, she's not having it. She's done. But let us not forget that one of the reasons why she's done is because Russell has rolled through and done his job. So she has the strength to, you know, get rid of Troy because Russell came by.
Yeah, but she didn't ask about him having children or anything. I guess you just assume that they don't or something. Because would it be that he lied if you didn't know that he had a child by now? 3-4 days.
I don't know.
And she said, "Oh, you didn't ask me. You told me basically about going to the barbecue."
You should have asked me before committing me.
I did ask.
No, you told me.
But no, you agreed to go. After Robin said that, you know, she was basically done, wanted to take a break. Then she agreed to go and meet his mama.
Well, and we know that Robin is on that BS because Robin has gotten some of that D from Russell. So she's just switching guys. That's all. She's kicking him to the curb. But if Russell had not come over, she would have been mad, but she would have been gathering her purse up and her keys and heading on to the barbecue.
Either way, she was still sitting there waiting on him, acting like she was reading a book or something. She waited 2 hours out there on the balcony.
Well, and let's ask that question about the kid to the comment. So if a person is starting to date a new person, should they know they have children within the first 3 or 4 days? I feel kind of like, yes, because that's just the initial, you know, that's the part of the who are you sort of thing.
The initial, that's one of the first things you're going to know if we're doing 1995 internet, age, sex, location, children.
You know? Yeah, you got any kids? You got to, you know,
what are your living, well, I guess the living arrangements wouldn't matter if the kid don't live with you, but you're going to ask if somebody have a kid. I just assume.
I mean, it would come up like, because you're talking about the most basics about your life, and you would think that a child would be in those conversations. So I have to hold Troy responsible for that. Do you think she would have gone with him if Russell hadn't come by?
No, I don't. I think it was just too much, and Savannah had already gotten in her ear. So just showing up late was just enough, I think.
For her to just kick him to the curb. Troy tries to sweet talk her, and she's not having any of it. And when he realizes that all of his different tactics he uses are not going to work, then he's giving her his tirade and, you know, is angry with her. And he's like, you know, a lot of women would be happy to come and meet my mama.
Bruh.
Do you have any idea how many women would love to take them to my house so they can meet my mother?
Troy goes on this whole tirade about black women and stuff and calls them the B word and stuff.
Man, you black bitches is all the same.
Bitch.
Because he showed up late and basically didn't disclose that he had kids, but that's arguable, right?
Complain all the time about don't nobody want your asses. Don't know how to treat you.
And then he ends it with, you know, then you wonder why we go out with white women.
Then you wonder why we go out with white women.
Well, and then like, let's talk about what he says. He said, you know, you basically don't know how to act when somebody is treating you right, you know?
Yeah.
You say folks don't treat you right, somebody show you some genuine interest, and then you don't know how to act. You act simple.
As soon as a man or brother show you genuine interest, you bitches act simple.
But that's not what he was doing.
No, not at all. He
Yeah.
was on that BS too.
Right. And we talked about Bernadine's story. Y'all go check that video out where her husband left her for a white woman.
Right.
Right. So this is basically trying to say that, you know, the different sides to it, because he wasn't treating his wife right. It
No.
doesn't appear. But this guy is also like, okay, the reason that this happens is because women don't know how to, black women don't know how to act when they're treated right. But from everything we've seen in the movie, from him and from John, Bernadine's husband or ex-husband, is that's not what happened.
Right.
That's not. So I think that's a commentary on, you know, such a thing.
Yeah, and then putting the responsibility back on the person who is the victim of your bad behavior. You know, you got a lot of nerve.
You raggedy bitch.
Take your drunk ass, stinky ass home.
But Robin stands her ground with it, and she is not having it. So in the end, you know, he winds up throwing oranges on her balcony or at her while she's on her balcony, and even calls her a tramp. You know, casually just calls her a tramp.
Have a fruit bowl, tramp.
And has all of these negative words. And it's funny because she wasn't a tramp when you were trying to go out with her, supposedly, you know, but the disrespect never ends.
She probably was, and he just accepted it.
Well, put it this way, you weren't calling her a tramp.
Right.
You know, that's what I mean. Because Robin, you know, may have been loose.
Yeah, and he might have liked that, right? And didn't care, but then it becomes an insult after the fact.
But let's get back to, so we were talking about that this is from Romeo and Juliet. And I feel like that's one of the things that makes this genius. It's like a genius little nugget that if you recognize it, it just gives a whole nother dimension to this. Because here, Romeo and Juliet are coming together on the balcony, and these two are clearly breaking up.
And he throws some oranges at her and say, have a fruit basket. She throws the orange back, hits him, and then the music ends with a comedic orchestral hit. So it goes.
It's like that. It's like that then.
Bye.
And I mean, it's funny. This was a good scene. And so I was crediting Babyface for it because, you know, for placement of this music and having done the score. But you were saying it could also have been the director as well.
Yeah, because you can have the directors or whoever come with the ideas. Oh, and it'll be like the Romeo and Juliet balcony scene. What if we used the music and then maybe Babyface played it, or you know what I'm saying, did whatever composing of it, right, to use it anew. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the composer of the scores who come up with the ideas
for all the songs,
especially for something that's going to be specific, like could definitely be part of the filmmaker's vision. That to make it, can we get the music from Romeo and Juliet for this scene?
Right. So Forrest Whitaker was the director of Waiting to Exhale. So between Forrest Whitaker and Babyface, they came together, and this scene I just think was genius, and it was funny. And even though he says some very stinging things, I think that the way that it ends on this comedy note kind of takes away a little bit of the burn.
Yeah, because that's one thing. Besides Bernadine's story, I think that it was very light, most of the stuff. But the whole burn and all his stuff and showing her tremendous anger was just something that just wasn't even cute. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
So, Robin, I guess you know who's got your wallet. You think he stole it?
Savannah's like, so Robin, you know who got your wallet? And she believes that Troy stole it?
Yeah.
Because he was late and drunk?
Because he was a drug addict in her mind.
But still.
And he's doing drug addict things.
See, you don't need friends like this who leading you down the wrong path logically.
Well, but she led her down the right path as far as the outcome, for sure.
But saying like, hey, somebody done stole something from you because they were late and drunk. Like, come on now.
Do you think Troy stole the wallet?
I don't know.
I think he stole a wallet. Seems like something he would do because he's, you know, I don't want to call him a con artist. He's just like a slickster, clearly. You know, somebody who's just smooth talking, slick. Does that make him a thief? Maybe not. He seems, when he's not drunk, maybe nice most of the time. He had been nice up to this moment.
Yeah.
Even though he was weird and, you know, like a
What was he
druggie.
gonna do? Keep stealing her wallet too? Like,
Y'all, now
come
we got to
on.
go to the comments. Do you all think that Troy actually stole her wallet or not?
They'll be like,
Yes or no?
Savannah, don't like the man. That mean he did it.
Well, I don't know. You was the only one there. Where my wallet at then?
She was there too.
She ain't stole
She
her
was
own
everywhere
wallet?
her wallet was. You can lose your wallet.
Okay.
See?
All right. I mean,
She was everywhere her wallet was.
y'all, I think she stole it.
You think Troy stole it?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. I think Troy stole it. I'm still with the
I'm just
original
saying,
vision.
I don't know.
Troy stole the wallet.
I don't know that he stole it.
You trying to stand up? Troy stole that wallet.
Hi.
Testing. When they're all together, it's Gloria's birthday party. Everything about the birthday wish that Robin gives to Gloria has to do with sex. I hope you
Yep.
get some so good. It's gonna be so good. Ooh, ooh.
I hope you find true love and get you some that's so electric you ain't gonna need no blow dryer.
That's her frame of reference.
Right. And in 2023, it's clear that the Robins won.
Ciao. So at one point in the scene, we have Savannah's character who comes and is like, the one thing we got in common is that one of us has a man, right? About all 4 women. Now, mind you, when they were on the phone, basically it was kind of like Robin didn't want to admit to Savannah that she was back dealing with Russell. So is Russell her man at this point? How does Robin feel when she says none of us have a man? Does she consider Russell her man?
Probably not. But maybe Russell is somebody else's man. It's not her exclusive man. I don't know.
You see, it's not, the signs are there, but it hasn't really all the way been laid out for us.
Right.
We'll get there.
But I don't think she sees him that way, because kind of the way when she was with Michael, she still mentioned Russell. Russell is just a guy who comes through. I guess kind of I don't know if it's exactly a rebound, but anytime you in between men, then this guy is the one who's
She said
there.
he's the only one she ever she ever loved.
So
that's
why
more
was she
than
with
like the
Michael
rebound.
then?
Because she was trying to move on from it.
Oh, right. And why was she with Troy? So, right, that's just the dude.
So
who
maybe
just,
everybody else is the something to do while I'm waiting on Russell. You know what I'm saying? Instead of Russell being the something to do in between men, maybe when Russell isn't acting right is when I'm, going out with these other guys from her perspective.
Yeah, but he only come over at night. So she's not with them.
Russell and making booty
She was
calls.
with the other guys, right? Going to a party or whatever.
Her daytime man.
Yeah, right? So the daytime man is the man. So he is the in-between, right? Oh, just like you said, when she was with that one guy, she would have stayed with him, but he came around. He messed up, right? When they went to that party. So then she got with Russell after talking to Savannah. Yeah, come on over. And then here we are again. Now you're back to Russell.
Mm-hmm. Basically, the next thing that happens is Bernadine gets upset, decides she wants to call her ex-husband or husband's side chick, the white chick that he has left her for. And of course, who volunteers but Robin to be the one to make the actual phone call? The woman answers the phone. Robin is like, no, it's not John, bitch.
Honey? Hello? No, it's not John, bitch. Robin.
Robin is always there ready to, bring the ratchet. That's what she is.
Except where she should.
Mm.
She didn't bring it with Michael with the whole work thing. She really didn't bring it with Russell with none of the stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Troy, I meant. She didn't bring it with Russell for none of that stuff. But, it's like kind of posturing, right? And maybe does it change things because they're men?
I think so. And I think also it's easier to channel that aggression and resentment that she has about her own circumstances onto somebody who, number one, is not going to ever come back on her, because she's not going to have to feel the repercussions. If she gives one of these men a hard time, they're going to give her a hard time back, and she's got to pay for that. Whereas there's no consequence to, prank calling the side chick.
Yeah.
Right.
And how she did earlier in Gloria's shop.
Mm-hmm. Savannah's character confesses that, her life in a nutshell is that, the man she loves is married with a child.
The one man I love is married with a kid.
who pipes up and says something but Robin. And she's like, at least he told you.
At least he told you he was married.
So now we're getting a clue that, Robin didn't know, that she was in a side chick situation. It hasn't completely fully yet been revealed. But that's a tidbit of information I think that is important.
So then they start talking about the problem with men or finding a man in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And here come Robin talking about they too damn scared to make a commitment.
They're not hiding. They're too damn scared to make a commitment.
So that's legit what she kind of assesses as the problem in her life. It's just that these men don't want to make a commitment.
When Michael was like, I'll give you the world, the moon, the stars. And
Russell don't want to make a commitment. Russell got no problems making a commitment. He done already made his commitment. It just wasn't to her.
Bruh. And Troy, right? Troy was trying to get with her too.
Yeah.
That ain't your problem.
Yeah. And then she goes on and mentions multiple times that maybe they're ugly.
They're ugly. And they ugly.
Right? Yeah. So she's very superficial in that respect. And she talks about that they have bad credit and, and other things. And,
they have
she gets
big sticks and they can't stick.
Yeah.
Or they got big ones and still can't.
So all of these things, but the stuff she says just is so telling about her character.
Yeah.
Russell?
All right, so this scene opens with a bang. She's at home, sitting in her little negligee on the bed, and she's like, Russell calls and said he's leaving his wife for sure this time, so what's taking him so long? Okay, so now we find out she is a side chick. Her permanent, and I'm going to push back on the idea that, all the guys she dates are in between Russell. No, Russell is the main dude in her life who she just uses these other guys as distractions and thinks, I'm going to put him down, I'll pick him up, that kind of thing. But Russell is a mainstay. And she is really a side chick. Just like Bernadine.
Exactly. But so she only got some time. So you think she did not get with Michael because of Russell?
No, I think that with Michael, he was just kind of a lot different than what she was maybe.
Right. So then she wasn't waiting for Russell. The thing is that when Russell got time, she slide in, right? Or out. Or when he is in between those other relationships. So if she would have got with Michael, then that means that she's not waiting for Russell. But if she was just drop Michael because she's still trying to get with Russell, then maybe you can say that.
Well, here's what I could say. What we saw was that, like, when she was with Troy, in literally the same conversation where she's like, I'm with Troy now, forget Russell. Russell calls in on the opposite line while she's talking to Savannah, and Russell is like, you want me to come over, baby? And she's like, yes. She answered, no hesitation or whatever. So see, Russell got it like that with her at this point in the movie. And so I think that she just is on the back burner. She knows it. She's a side chick and she knows it. Now, the one thing that makes it a little different for her is that clearly, I think the evidence is there that when she entered into this, she didn't know she was the side chick, right? Which I think in a lot of cases is how it winds up. He doesn't say, hey, I'm married to this woman and I going home to my wife every night. He's making up excuses like I got to take my mama to the church or my grandmama church or whoever. And so that's why I can't spend the night. But the signs were there that he was, living with his wife and married and all that business. So but it is different. It's different than you knowingly going into it. But the question is, would she still have gotten with Russell if she knew he was married up front? And I think the answer to that is yes, because when they were in the club, she was willing to get with, what was his name? Hubert or whatever his name is. Herbert.
Yeah, Herbert. But the thing is that what we know from her character is she seems to be sex driven. So she would get with the married dude for sex, right? Because she always bringing up how the sex is and stuff.
Yeah,
so
and
we don't know
to do it, so she would be a side chick.
Oh, right, but we don't know that that means that she would try to get with Herbert to try to have a relationship with.
Well, okay, so here I think that there are different levels of relationship, right? But I would say, to me, in my mind, the side chick is anybody who has continued sexual relations with a married man. Now, whether that's she's been doing it 20 years,
but
whether he pays her or gives her money or not,
But the question
to me,
here,
that's what side chick is.
But the question here is whether or not the relationship with Russell is just about having sex from time to time, or is it that she wants this commitment that she mentioned in the previous scene at the party?
I think that she wants the commitment from Russell.
Right, so
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So with Herbert, isn't that she's looking for that? What we know is that she's willing to get with a married man for sex.
But what we know about her is that her nose is wide open in a lot of situations. She only knew Troy for 3 days. She was like, I feel close to him. Women who are in this kind of vulnerable state, any man who they can kind of get along with, in Robin's case, sexually, right? But who also is like in this space where they are giving her, making her feel special, making her feel worthy. She's open, and then that is just a point of vulnerability for her. So if Herbert was doing to her what he was doing to Bernadine, because Bernadine said she couldn't get rid of him. Now he calling all the time after she gave it to him one time, then she might have been susceptible to that. And she might have been susceptible. I mean, this is pure speculation, but I'm saying the evidence that we see from who she has been this whole movie is that she probably would have fell for Herbert too. Because ultimately, what she wants is to be married and have this relationship with the one guy who she can look at and depend on, whatever. All the stuff she said to Michael, that's really what she wants. She just don't know how to get it. So Russell finally shows up, and he, is slow moving, and she's got an attitude, but she's still trying to embrace him and stuff. And she's like, okay, she gonna sign the divorce papers and blah, 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 and all that.
Is she gonna sign the divorce papers?
He's like, that's not how it works, baby. You don't just up and decide to divorce somebody and the papers get signed and whatever.
You just don't decide to divorce somebody and sign on dotted line, baby. It doesn't work that way.
So, he is still stringing her along, clearly, but, she's wanting to believe, and so thus she is believing.
Russell, did you sleep with her?
I can't take coming here being pressured about what I'm doing with my own wife.
Bruh.
He got irate because Robin asked what if he had sex with his wife. But all right, if you take away the morality of any of it, he is right. She should not be asking about what he's doing with his wife, no matter what y'all doing together.
You know what?
You out of bounds.
Okay, I hate the side chick situation ever. But let me just say, you are the side chick. You got to know your lane. You don't get to ask all these questions. You agreed to whatever the terms of this side chick scenario. So, how dare you come and put the screws to this man?
You got some nerve telling this married man he can't have sex with his wife.
The whole thing is just a mess. It's just a mess, and it reminds me of that video that we saw on social media that you had shown me, where the guy is talking about the kind of the side chick. What was that from? Where he's talking about the woman is like, well, as the side chick, he said he liked me better than his wife. And then he's like, I may like you better, but that don't mean I want to be with you.
Could he possibly like me more than his girlfriend?
He might absolutely like you more than his girlfriend. That do not mean he want to be with your. That don't mean he's ever intending to wife your. Because your girl can get on your goddamn nerves, but I still notice who I want to be with. She's just getting on my nerves right now, and I don't like her. I love her though, but I happen to like you. You know what I'm saying? Because in the midst of my difficulty with my partner, you was willing to squeeze yourself in. You didn't even try to take up space. So I can like you right where you at. You mean I get to still go home to my girl? Yes, I like you a lot. You actually okay with me having to get off the phone when my girl walk in? Yeah, I like you, baby.
To me, that was just, amazing words, because it was so true. Listen, we talked about this in Bernadine's video. The bottom line is trying to convince a man to leave his wife is just the wrong move if you're a side chick.
Happen.
If you want to be a side chick, that's your business, but understand that is, that's the ceiling is side chick. Most side chicks do not get elevated to anything different with that particular man. You want to get married, go find a man who wants to marry you. This probably won't be this married man who's already committed to somebody else. That's the point that a lot of these side chicks don't get.
Hello?
Hey, what's happening, baby? Troy.
I can't talk right now.
I suggest you tell your boyfriends not to call you after 11.
He's jealous.
Bruh, Oh my, like Robin is so clueless. So of course, Troy calls and, Robin answers and then she's like, I can't talk. And he's like, well, not, baby, whatever. Russell is right there. And Russell is like, tell your boyfriends don't call here after 11 o'clock. After she's lied to him and said that was Savannah on the phone. Russell know what the deal is because he understands that, there will be other men barking up that tree.
Yeah, so she got to exert her power and be like, yeah, that was just my man Troy, right? Because he got a whole wife. Why can't you have a man?
Because Russell would have got his butt up and left, and that's what she don't want to happen. But that's really what, I mean, to me, hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander if that's how it is. But see, that's not the agreement that you have made when you usually, when you become the side chick.
No, you're making an agreement now. Now that she basically lies and don't say, hey, I'm messing with other men. Now you're basically telling him that I'm exclusive to you and you're exclusive to me and your wife.
And probably another side.
Probably some more, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just think that in this kind of situation, I do think he got a lot of nerve though. But what I think is happening here, she's like, oh, he's jealous. Nah, he ain't jealous. He's just acting in ways that keep you in line.
Yeah.
That's what I think. He don't care. Because if he cared, he would be there tending to his garden instead of, leaving you by yourself. He don't care about you enough to be around. But she's once again deluding herself.
There was this one woman in your same situation. This man kept saying he was going to leave too.
So there's a scene between Savannah and Robin where they're talking poolside. And Savannah, is this side chick to this doctor who has a wife and a child. And she's hoping that, he's going to leave his wife. And so she's trying to get some advice on what to do. And they're talking about it. And then Robin confesses this story about, a woman who was with a married man. And then she leaves town even that she's in to go move to the city where he lives, quits her job and everything, gets there, and then finds out that she's 3 months pregnant. And he dumps her and she winds up having an abortion. And, and I think the way that they did it in this movie was really creative because she acts like she's telling it like just this story of a woman. And then at the end, she confesses that it's her, by saying, sorry, I've never been on Oprah before when Savannah asks her, like what was this, what show was this on or whatever,
That was the saddest part of the movie.
It really, really was. But we wait to the end to understand her better, right? To get to the point of like, why is she acting like this? Why is she, so gung-ho about, aside from the obvious with Russell, and what is the deal? Well, she has come, the whole reason that she's in Phoenix is because of Russell.
Yeah.
She moved to be with him. He said and promised that he was going to leave. And then at the last minute, he's like, no, my kids will be hurt. I can't go.
So is it Russell? I always assumed it was, but she said that he dumped her.
It was Russell, and Russell did dump her, right? Which is why they probably weren't together. But remember, she says at the beginning of it, when she gets back with him, he said he's really going to leave this time, right? So to me, that's the continuation of when he was going to leave before. So I definitely think it's Russell.
If they're dumped, then how are they together, right? To be like, oh, that's the one who she's with and the other guys are just fill-ins.
Okay, so let me go back.
Because she specifically said that he dumped her. Like, were they ever together to be dumped?
Yeah. Because he was promising that he was going to leave, right? So he's with two people, his wife and his girlfriend or his side woman, right? And he's promising the side chick that he's going to leave. But where the rubber met the road, he decided not to leave. Now, it's up in the air as to whether he really had intentions of leaving or not. And, in a real world, maybe there were days when he felt like he could be with Robin. And there's other days where he like, I ain't finna leave my wife, and looking at the pros and cons of all of that. But what I would say as far as Robin is concerned is that, so they break up, right? He broke up because he recognized that the jig was up, as he either was going to have to, as they say, crap or get off the pot. He wasn't getting ready to marry her. He wasn't leaving his wife. So he has to break it off with her. He breaks it off with her to quell her expectations. And then he slowly, like he just called her back, this last time, right? And then that's how you keep her strung along and tied up.
I guess, but so this is them being together, him showing up at night.
That's the only way they've ever been.
All right, so what is
Yeah.
a breakup? That's what I'm saying. It don't make sense at all.
The breakup
for
is that
them-
I'm
for
not coming
them-
over at night anymore. We're not going to be together. I got to leave you alone. The other part
Well,
is
she
that
was
when
basically talking about, well, the last time that he was here, he said he was going to stay the night. So they were still doing stuff together.
yeah, because okay, so let's just say, so when she first moved, then they broke up. Then they, I would presume, had a period of time where they may have had no contact, and then he slowly just creeps back in. This is how they do. He creeps
Yeah,
back
but-
in. They start seeing each other on and off
What
again.
I'm saying is there's no difference. There is no breakup. I don't think it's necessarily Russell. I just think that she keeps doing this.
Okay, well, I believe wholeheartedly that it's Russell, especially because of how much she wants to make it work with Russell. And I think part of the guilt, the feelings and emotions that she has surrounding this abortion that she had have to do with why Russell is the one that she's so fixated on.
So are they broken up now?
At this very moment, I believe that the break hasn't actually happened. But I believe, because as we find out in the next scene, I mean, spoiler alert, you've seen this movie before, but she's pregnant right now. She knows she's keeping her baby this time. So she knows what the likely outcome is going to be. And she knows she's probably going to lose this man. And that's just going to be that. But she's keeping her baby because she's not going through what she went through before.
What if she's talking about the future? What if that story ain't what really happened?
Well, I mean, I think you got to take the character at face value. Why would she lie?
What, tell a story? So she started off like this story wasn't about her, right? So I would call that basically lying, right? So you're leading somebody to believe something. So why can't you be telling your friend the story of what's going on with you?
Maybe you're telling.
And you're like, I am going to have an abortion, basically.
So what you trying to say is she pregnant now and she gonna have another abortion?
Not in another.
Or that
this
she
is
never
the
had-
story that she's telling.
Oh, and she's saying in the future he doesn't marry her. I just think
Well,
there's too
because
many.
what we just seen, the last scene with them, is that he said he's basically not leaving him, not leaving his wife, right? And then we find out that she's pregnant. For it to happen 2 times is a whole bunch of coincidence, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think people get knocked up by people multiple times, and I think she decided that I didn't like what happened
Well,
last
I'm not
time.
saying
I'm gonna do
that
something
getting knocked
different.
up twice is the bunch of coincidence. The bunch of coincidence is, okay, I'm got with this married man who is say he's going to leave me. Well, who say he's going to leave his wife, decides not to, and then I'm pregnant, and then again with the guy, and he's with his wife that he's going to leave, and I'm knocked up again. That's a bunch of coincidence to me, right? Which would make sense that it's possible, but I guess it don't have to be that it's possible that
Hey,
she
what
could
if
be
it's Michael's baby?
thinking about the future. Yeah, because he threw that rubber.
Because he threw that rubber. That might not even be Russell baby.
Back in the 90s, you just say it's somebody's baby.
You just blamed them and that was it. But people are finding out right now today as these ancestry results are coming through that, they got some explaining to do. But I would just say, that just occurred to me, hey, what if it's Michael's baby? Because he took that rubber off, and it's unclear. We know this is a year in their life, but it's unclear exactly when these relationships were happening. I presume she probably would have had safe sex with Troy, but if he pulled a Michael, who knows? But she had unsafe sex with Michael, and she just ain't know it.
Yeah, but I think that was
could be
closer
knocked
to
up.
the new year.
Yeah, you're probably right. But back to your question, I don't really feel like it's coincidences. I accept the story at face value, and I think it was just a clever way for her to explain it. And
Yeah.
here's what I'll also say about her explaining her life this way. Maybe as she's telling her, she wants the friend to get the message, but at the time that she starts telling the story, she's not sure if she wants to own up to what her connection to it. So you could say, hey, I know, it's like the person who's like, yeah, I know somebody who did such and such and thus and so. and it's them. They know it's them, but it's always ambiguous as to whether the other person knows. But at the end, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna own up to it. And I think she's owning up to it because Savannah, also in this scene, wants to be in denial about whether or not this man is likely to leave his wife. And we talked about it in the other video. We know that the husbands are not likely to leave their wives for the mistresses. And so, she wants to hit home to her friend. Girl, this is not, he's probably not going to leave, which is why she looks at her, which I think is so funny because this is probably the moment where I feel like Robin, who seemed very ditzy for most of the movie, seems to have had a light bulb go off in her head. And like she actually gets what's going on.
How far along were they doing abortions back then?
I think it was always up to like 3 months unless there's like some type of medical issue.
Hey, baby. Surprised to see me.
So Russell shows back up at the door. It must have been a little while since he's been over because she's looking angry and she's reading a book at the time. And he's like, I finally got that bee off my back like I've been wanting, talking about his wife. Who knows if this is a truth or a lie?
If it is, she wrong.
Finally got that bitch off my back like I told you I would.
They been bugging that man about leaving that lady. He just throws his family away for you. And then you like, nah, you can't come in.
She ain't wrong.
Because I haven't invited you in.
And I'm going to tell you why she ain't wrong. Because he's been a liar. He's likely to be a liar. In this case, you probably ain't bit more. You had an argument with your wife and then you over here for a minute and you're going to be right back over there.
But
she don't care. She's not having it. She has grieved with the loss.
If it's true, you're a home wrecker, but then you just like, yeah, I'll just wreck homes and then that's it.
Well, he can go to his other side woman, the one who had her negligee in the gym bag.
Yeah,
go over there.
But she has culpability in this. Like, it ain't like she just
absolutely.
Yeah, so
she's not innocent. Okay, to be clear, she's not innocent, but there's a thing called taking your medicine and getting right. And this is part of her getting right. You know what I'm saying? This is part of her taking responsibility for her actions because now she's got this baby.
Yeah, but you broke up you basically was pressuring the man to do it, and then now, holier than thou, you won't even let him in. You convince somebody to do something, and
she
then
got a baby
you
to
don't
raise.
partake in it. Yeah, his baby.
Or Michael's. But yeah, you got a baby to raise. She's got to be about the business of dealing with her child. And no, I don't feel one bit sorry for Russell. Been playing both ends against the middle the whole time. So, maybe he was telling the truth, maybe he wasn't.
What you read? Childbirth choices. What's that about?
She discloses that she's pregnant and said, we don't need you in our lives, but that child support is going to come.
It's yours, and I'm keeping it.
If she files, somebody like Robin might not file. But let me say this, how he finds out and how he looks, because she's reading this book, childbirth choices, blah, blah, blah. And then he notices and he's like, what's that about? The look on his face and how he stepped back, you would have thought she had a communicable disease.
Yeah, he stepped. He wasn't trying to get in anymore.
He like, I gotta go. I gotta be somewhere.
So what you expect me to do?
What you do best. Disappear.
He is not trying to hear that. He is not for her having a baby. And see, to me, that's very telling because he just wanted a place to lay his, head and his ding-a-ling for a few minutes. I don't think he had any intentions of being with her or staying. And, this tells the whole deal.
But did she have any intentions of her child having a father?
We need to talk about that because I was going to get to that next. I agree with almost everything Robin did in this scene. But at the end of the day, that's this baby's father. And I think for the sake of the child, the door ought to be left open so that the father can interact with his child. I don't believe in cutting the parents off from their children unless there's, the immediate bodily harm that you suspect, like, in those cases where, like the video that we did on The Boy and the Monster from Tales from the Hood, which, is linked in the description if you want to watch that video.
Yeah. I think they left too much out of this movie because just the way she started acting to him, right? Before you was like, oh, he's jealous, with the little smile. And now all of a sudden It's get out of here.
Well, the calculus changed when I believe the calculus changed when she found out she was pregnant. But you're right. It's hard to tell 4 full-on stories in this time period because I guess the movie's like a couple hours, like about just under 2 hours. And I would have loved to have heard more. I'm sure some people in the comments will be telling us what happened in the book. And just to reiterate, what we do is we do try to stay true to what happened and what we saw in the movie because the books and the movie do deviate somewhat. And so it's easier for people to follow what's happening. But I would have liked to know more. I wish they could have shown more. And maybe there were certain things that we could have used the less of.
Oh yeah.
But and maybe whatever hit the cutting room floor, maybe they recorded more and this is just what the final cut was. But back to the whole thing. Do you think what do you think about her being like, we don't need you, talking about her and the baby and
Let's just go back to you spent all these time, possibly years, trying to get him to leave his family and come and be a family with you, and now all of a sudden you're just like, no, go away. After he said he done basically broke up his home for you. Even though you both can be wrong, you're still wrong because what you've done to this man in this moment where you supposedly had this agreement, you still have your word, you have, and all of that other stuff. So I just think, and then, we don't need you and all of this, but you can say that she's not one who would file for child support. We don't know.
Yeah,
we know
don't.
that
it wouldn't surprise me
you
if
may
she
be demanding.
Didn't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's possible that she does, right? Which means that you caused all of this. You was a part of all of this being put into motion, and then just all of a sudden, you just flip this switch and be holier than thou. And now I'm supposed to watch this movie and look at him as the bad man and root for her, even though this is who she is.
Well, I think that is the dilemma of Waiting to Exhale, which is really at its core the story of 3 side chicks and one woman who, was longing for love that held out. That would be Gloria. I'm just joking. I'm being sarcastic. Don't y'all get too mad about it. But the reality is that Savannah, Robin, and Bernadine were all side chicks. And the repercussions from that and even though we have an endearment to the character, what they're doing is not right and they're not always going to be right. And it's hard to, the movie is made for you to root for her, just like it was made for you to root for Bernadine laying up a spooning with another woman's husband.
Yeah, but part of what's different is demanding that the man break up a family is a lot different than, all right, I'm with this dude and waiting for his wife to die.
Yeah.
Like that is just.
Go to the comments.
That's not just, I'm a side chick and I squeeze in my time whenever I can.
Do you see that Bernadine waiting for, and we know what really happened, so don't bring up the book. But as far as the movie's concerned, Bernadine is, possibly waiting for Wesley Snipes' character, James, for his wife to die so that she can come on and, be his main chick right after the whole spooning incident. Is that any different than, what we see here or not? I guess that's the question.
And it's one worse than the other. Because a lot of times people just be like, we don't give values to stuff and it's all just bad, but you do it all the time with every single thing. So what's worse?
One way to measure which is worse might be the number of people who get hurt and the degree to which they are hurt. And certainly, this man has kids, multiple kids. He's got a wife. Yeah. So that's at least 3 people minimum.
And then she's pregnant and could have a child.
She's pregnant. That's another child that could be hurt by it, and there are just fewer people involved in the situation with Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, but I think it's more than just who gets hurt because demanding, right, too. Demanding that you break up this family versus maybe James's wife finding out that he has a side chick.
Yeah,
I still see that differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's none of it is exactly black and white to me.
Yeah,
because it's degrees of wrongness. I will agree with that part. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think that it's good writing when you can empathize with characters who have major flaws.
Yeah, and there are major flaws, but I think in this moment, I justify at least the rooting for a part of Robin in that she's getting right. You know, Robin didn't just take up with another married man and then decide. See, because that's what she would always do in the past, right? It's just on to the next man, and the next man is what allows me to get rid of the last man.
Yeah.
In this case, she's like, it's about me and my kid. I'm trying to do the right thing and be right. She told him to go home to his wife.
Go home to your wife. We don't need you in our lives.
Yeah, so the thing is, part of this is, you know, from these books and stuff, and even our movies, that we like stuff that's real salacious. So to make it where, hey, she's actually just turning over a new leaf and just make it where, hey, we can't root for her if she's not pregnant, and basically saying don't come around the kid. And if he doesn't say, oh, I left the bee.
Yeah.
You know, I finally got the bee off my back. If it's just he showed up and he's still trying to do the same thing, she's like, I'm not into that anymore. Vroom, vroom, vroom. But they threw in these other things that make me be like, no, because this whole time she's been getting him to, pressuring him to leave, and then he like, but it has to be some of that more salacious things and extra drama added in.
Well, and you know, what took Russell from just being like the typical two-timing husband to kind of what I would call a super low down man is how he backed off when it, you know, the expression and how he was like, what you want me to do? Like, you were over there slanging it, but now the results of that you want to have nothing to do with. What you want me to do? See, to me, that's what made him like low down. Other than that, he would have just been the typical two-timing husband, which is trifling for sure. But like, that's a different level of trifling when you deny your child.
The part too where he was just talking about don't be questioning me and what I'm doing with my wife.
He had a whole
don't
lot.
Talk to no men.
Don't talk to no. Well, because that's the double standard, right? Which this movie is.
Yeah, but I'm saying
that
that's terrible too. Like,
yeah, that is bad.
Like, he's just low down. If they didn't show that and he just had a wife too. So it's be these little things that
and
just
he called his wife a bee. What your wife do? I mean, we don't really know anything about the wife, but presumably, like, what your wife do except put up with your trifling butt?
We don't know. Maybe, man, did they do like a spinoff?
No. You know, so yeah, so that's really kind of in the way that you know, the final thing we find out about Robin's story, except that, you know, we're back to New Year's Eve again, and they do have a party that they go to. Well, not a party, but they spend time together, all four of the friends. All right, and so the last scene we see Robin in, she is kind of big and pregnant. It's the end of the year. And, you know, it's New Year's Eve. And at one point, Savannah's character says, you know, this baby gonna have more than one mama. You know, so she's able to get through the support of her friends, you know, so she is made stronger by their love and their support. And then, of course, at the very end, you know, it goes from the music and then, boom, Whitney Houston, CeCe Winans' Count on Me starts to play. Which is a beautiful song, right? Of friendship and love. And that's really what this movie is about at its core, because at the end of the movie, only one of the women winds up in a romantic relationship, actively anyway. And that's Gloria. So the other ones have their friends, they have their lives, they have their careers. And, you know, hopefully at some point in the future, if it's what they want, they'll have, you know, good relationships.
Did they help each other make it throughout the movie?
I think so, because, you know, we saw Robin help Savannah come to the conclusion about what to do about her man. We haven't done that video yet, but that probably will be next, or one of the next ones that we do. We only have 2 left. So, and we'll talk more about Savannah's situation, but that probably gave her the strength to think about really cutting it off with her being this, you know, side chick, right? And realizing that she was deluding herself, thinking that this man was about to leave his wife because he was only making excuse after excuse after excuse. So that was how we saw her help Savannah. And then Savannah helped her too, right? At least talking through like, look, Troy ain't the one. Leave Troy alone. Even though she did say Troy stole the wallet. So the closeness of the friends in each in their own ways, I think does help that. And probably for men too, but I mean, I can only speak as a woman. Female friendships are important. It's important to have women in your lives who just understand. And when you listen to the words of "count on me," that really says it all, right? These are your girlfriends and people who you're tight with, and they hopefully won't judge you, and they love you, and they tell you the hard things that are hard to hear, and they're there when everything falls apart and help you pick that up too. At its best, that's what friendship is. That is Robin's story. So when you walk away from Robin's story, what do you think happens after the camera stops rolling?
I don't know what happens after the camera stops, but I think that she probably made a big error in not getting with Michael from the men that they showed us, because it didn't really show where Michael was wrong, except if he was just trying to climb over her career-wise. But they probably shouldn't have been together because it was, in office romance. So, but I guess the main story is her overcoming
Russell.
Is overcoming being a side chick or striving for side chickdom. I think that's the story in her.
Yeah, becoming an ex-side chick.
But it didn't show her really mature, because now you're just a single baby mama.
Yeah, but hopefully, things could work out. I think that what eventually happens is she hopefully will mature just a little bit more, enough to, if Russell wants to see his baby, let him see his child and interact with his child and whatnot. And maybe even, this is a stretch, but maybe even co-parent. And then I think that maybe she'll find a guy, but it'll just have to be a modified version of what she originally wanted, that original dream. And, because I definitely think that, well, of course, I don't think she had any chance with Michael after, what happened with them. But I don't know. Do you think Michael would have been interested in her if she had a kid?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, maybe Michael could have come.
I don't know. It depends on
that
what
time
happened.
had probably come and gone. That ship was sailed. But,
So I guess it kind of showed. Was she the only? I think she was the only one in here who basically she dogged men. I guess she dogged him. We can say that.
Michael.
She dogged Michael.
Yeah, she kind of dogged
but
Michael.
The rest weren't like that.
Right.
So
she dished it and she gave it. She dished it and she received it.
Yeah.
And I thought that as far as the film is concerned, I thought that Robin brought a lot of the comic relief. Everybody has or knows the ratchet folks who will do some of the stuff she did, and in the more serious scenes, it was kind of funny for her to be acting like she was acting, even though it was immature, like in a real world sort of way. It was funny to watch on camera.
Yep.
So thank you so much for watching and sticking with us to the end of this breakdown of Robin's story and Waiting to Exhale.
If you made it this far into this breakdown and analysis of the film Waiting to Exhale, type, "Am I gonna have to tame you?" in the comments so we'll know you reached the end of this video.
Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out one of these videos on the screen right now.